There are a lot of things that can be said about the Democrat Party, but of all those things, the number one thing that we can all agree on is that they want power, void of any real policy that would improve the lives of the American people or put America on a path back to strength and dominance globally. The Democrat Party still seems to believe that it is better equipped and qualified to run the United States government than the Republican Party. Everyone seems to have the same question when it comes to the Democrats, though. And that question is, who exactly would be at the head of the party were the Democrat Party able to retake the House, the Senate, and eventually the presidency from the Republican Party? If you ask the Democrat voter, you'll hear a couple of names: Gavin Newsom, Bernie Sanders. You might even hear an Elizabeth Warren thrown in there. But one name that I believe would be mentioned quite consistently is that of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a very young, very passionate, zealous, far left member of the Democrat horde. People feel that this woman is uniquely qualified to run the country at this point, and many people on the far left leaning wing of the Democrat Party feel that she represents them in a way that traditional or more moderate Democrats simply cannot. But I think these people are in for a very rude awakening, especially after Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez went to the Munich Security Conference and did her best version of being president. Check this out.
I think that Prime Minister Carney's remarks at the World Economic Forum were words that rung around the world in raising this question. But I think that also in his remarks, as well as part of this larger conversation, there was this undertone, this undercurrent, this suggestion that it was a rules-based order sometimes. And I think that that is the issue that lies before us, is that in a so-called rules-based order, the rules for whom? Because for all too long, the rules only applied to the United States, Europe, its allies, and we would carve out exceptions for the global south. And I think that when you have a rules-based order where you carve out exceptions to our values, exceptions to our rules, eventually the exceptions become the rules.
Okay, I know you guys have to be wondering the same exact thing that I'm wondering. What the hell is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez talking about? Well, apparently she feels that she is up to the task of becoming president of the United States of America. I don't know what has been said in her echo chamber, because most Democrats, voters, and politicians simply live in an echo chamber. They are absolutely vehemently opposed to any disagreement or divergence of thought or any real critique of their abilities. So they go over to Blue Sky and other far leftist platforms and walk among the lilies, as if you will, among people who do nothing but heap praise upon them, no matter how ineffective or ignorant the things that they are doing may be. So Cortez goes down to the Munich Security Conference, and she sits down with journalists and interviewers, and she wants to talk about geopolitical current events. And she particularly talks about a meeting that happened, or an interview, press conference that happened featuring the Prime Minister of the UK, and some of the things that he said regarding America, the future of NATO, the future of global security, etc. And she basically just does a really good impression of Kamala Harris with the word salad and the repetition of very clumsy slogans and phrases. And she even threw in the goofy laugh, the you know what I'm saying type of laugh, when in reality nobody knows what Ocasio-Cortez is actually saying. And I don't even think she knows what she's saying. But basically, she bombed this interview. And pretty much all it amounted to was entertainment value for those of us who have the heart and the bravery to criticize her and other members of the flailing Democrat national machine. As if the first bowl of word salad wasn't enough, AOC continues to pretend to be the big girl on campus, if you will, when asked a question about whether or not the United States would intervene were China to invade Taiwan. Check out her answer.
Would and should the U.S. actually commit U.S. troops to defend Taiwan if China were to move?
I think that this is such a, I think that this is of course a very longstanding policy of the United States. And I think what we are hoping for is that we want to make sure that we never get to that point. And we want to make sure that we are moving in all of our economic research and our global positions to avoid any such confrontation and for that question to even arise.
Instead of simply saying, you know what, I really don't know, I would be in favor of that, but I'm not in charge of anything. I am simply a representative who continues to make bad decisions on geopolitics the longer that I sit in my seat as a representative of New York. She tries to pretend like she has some type of authority, or basically gets up and projects absolute weakness and says, well, we're going to do everything in our power not to make that happen. So let's say if she was president, in my opinion, what I'm gathering from what she said is she's going to bootlick China as much as she has to avoid any type of confrontation with them regarding Taiwan. I mean, that seems to be the current Democrat Party policy regarding China, whether it's Gavin Newsom, AOC, Tim Walz, or any of the other Chinese China bootlicks who occupy our House of Representatives.
The United States right now is experiencing a political pendulum, and depending, really, the party that is seen most as betraying the working class tends to be the governing party in this moment right now. That happens to be the Republican majority. But really, what we are seeing over the last 8 years, I think, has been a growing recognition that of those past errors that go back, that include military interventionism in the Iraq War, that include a recognition of NAFTA as a failed policy for many rural and working class communities. And now I think we are moving in this direction of increased recognition that we have to have a working class centered politics if we are going to succeed, and also if we are going to stave off the scourges of authoritarianism, which also provides political siren calls to allure people into finding scapegoats to blame for rising economic inequality, both domestically and globally.
Please don't tell me that you rehearsed this response, because if you did, it's an absolutely pathetic bullcrap response. You knew you were flying to Munich. You knew you were going to sit down with reporters, and you can't tell me that someone who is constantly criticizing the members of the Republican Party on the other side of the aisle constantly criticizing the president, you can't tell me that you showed up for this interview to show up the Republican Party and show up the president of the United States, which I feel is kind of treasonous. But please don't tell me you showed up unprepared. Please don't tell me that someone who literally has writers on her staff, there are people who are paid who are on her staff to be able to come up with good answers to questions such as these. And the biggest problem is she's just such a fake and a phony. She can't speak to what she would do because, as we know, Andrea Ocasio-Cortez, she doesn't really stand for anything outright. She basically stands for whatever the party bosses like Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries tell her she's going to stand for. So she can't even answer these questions in good faith. But AOC wasn't done, because I'm going to show you a clip from another interview where she served what I believe is her greatest word salad yet. She even may have surpassed Kamala Harris with this one here. Now you're going to witness AOC put her foot in her mouth over the issue of Israel and Gaza, a topic that for her and her colleagues and other far left Democrat politicians is always a win. They feel like bringing up the conflict between Israel and the Palestinians in Gaza is a winning topic, a winning conversation for their party. So they try to pivot to it as much as they possibly can. The only problem is, as we're going to see here, once they are pressed or once a follow-up question is asked concerning one of their answers or their statements, they are absolutely lost when it comes to explaining the position that they pretend to hold when it comes to the situation over in the Gaza Strip. And that is on full display here.
Yes, but I also think that what people are starting to see, at least in the occupation of Palestine, is just an increasing crisis of humanitarian condition. And that to me is just where I tend to come from on this issue.
You use the term the occupation of Palestine. What did you mean by that?
Now that's called a follow-up question. That's called making the interviewee explain these statements and these positions that they've been arguing or they've been issuing and they've been standing on for the better part of 4 years. This woman was one of the most vocal politicians in America when it came to Gaza and the conflict there between the Palestinians and the Israelis. But when asked to expand or expound upon her statement that she made concerning the quote unquote occupation of the Gaza Strip, well, you'll see how she responds.
I think what I meant is like the settlements that are increasing in some of these areas and places where Palestinians are experiencing difficulty in access to their housing and homes.
Oh, so it's not an occupation. You're talking about legal, lawful settlements that are being built by the Israelis that actually house not only Israelis, but also Palestinians within the Gaza Strip. I'm sure undoubtedly on land that they've either purchased or acquired by some legal means. But she's calling that an occupation. Oh, they're just sitting there taking over the whole Gaza Strip. They're just sitting there bullying the people off their land and building buildings and apartments on it. If that's what's going on, AOC, go ahead and say that. But if that's not what's going on, or if you know that you can't say that that's what's going on, or else you will be in trouble with your political party that strongly supports Israel and the current Israeli government, well, just say that too, or shut the heck up and stop bringing it up, trying to weaponize it against the Republican Party.
Do you think you can expand on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd also just, I am not the expert on geopolitics on this.
Oh, so okay, now you're not the expert on geopolitics. But if we put a microphone in front of your face during a protest, if we put a microphone in front of your face after President Trump makes a statement concerning the conflict down in Gaza, all of a sudden you know everything. All of a sudden you're an expert on the issue. All of a sudden you have sources and people who are giving you good, reliable information to where you could speak on this situation with authority. But guys, listen, it's the same thing I always tell you. These people talk a good game, but once you pull back or peel back the layers on that onion, these people are totally ignorant when it comes to geopolitics. Now, if this woman, like all of us, she has the same 24 hours in a day, she could go do all the research. She's literally in the chamber of Congress where there are people who are experts on Middle Eastern relations, Middle Eastern geopolitics. Why doesn't she go to those people and get brought up to speed on what's actually going on in the unique situation that is unfolding down in the Gaza Strip, instead of doing what these people do best, her, Jasmine Crockett, Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer, which is what? Gaslight the American people in an attempt to turn them against Donald Trump, and in that same vein, turn them against the Republican Party. Why doesn't she go educate herself on this topic that she claims to care so much about? And I'm telling you, she doesn't give a damn about anything going on in Gaza. It is just her attempt to virtue signal and stoke the fires of toxic empathy to tug at people's heartstrings so they'll move away from the center and more towards the far left wing of the Democrat Party. That is it. But it's just crazy that she admitted it here. And yet there are still people in America who will probably never see this interview and will still continue to believe that people like her are qualified to be leadership.
Just a 20-second follow-up, really, just quick. Are there any particular institutions that a Democratic administration would want to save? Like your voters, is it NATO? Is it the climate accord? Is it the Iran nuclear? Are there some things where, just give me a lily pad?
Well, you know, first and foremost, I think we need to revisit our commitments to international aid, not just USAID, but the dozens of global compacts that this current Secretary of State and President Trump have withdrawn from. They are looking to withdraw the United States from the entire world so that we can turn into an age of authoritarianisms.
So let me explain what she's saying. She's basically giving a dog whistle to all the countries that have been exploiting the United States for decades. Hey, if we get back in power, the bank is back open. You'll be able to exploit the United States for billions and billions and trillions of dollars again. And what she's doing is comparing the United States being fiscally responsible, the United States holding these other members of NATO accountable to pay their fair share when it comes to the defense of their own countries. That's called authoritarianism. So if you don't let other countries knowingly take advantage of you, like they've been doing for the past 50 years, that means you're an authoritarian regime in the same line with Hitler or Stalin. This is so disgusting to me, because I'm sitting here watching this woman who just admitted she doesn't know anything about geopolitics basically tell the rest of the world, if we get back in power as Democrats, though we are ignorant when it comes to geopolitics, we will open the treasury coffers of the United States of America, filled with money earned by the United States workers. And we will just let you plunder and pillage as much as you want out of our coffers until you're satisfied or until we're removed from office. They want to sell America to the highest bidder. And once they sell America, the American people won't get crap in return for that. They will just be enriched personally. And that is what Ocasio-Cortez is doing. She's out there hunting for international campaign dollars by making it clear that if she were to get elected or one of her colleagues were to get elected, the exploitation of America will be allowed to continue. But let me know what you think about this situation. Do you think Ocasio-Cortez would actually make a good president? Or do you think she is really just an unqualified woman who lucked her way into a position and has been taught by the best con artists and grifters on Capitol Hill how to remain in that seat? Thank you so much for watching this. I appreciate everything you do for me in this channel. Till the next time, please take care of yourselves, but most importantly, please take care of one another. Peace.